Hello, good morning. How are you? I hope you are good today. We are getting ready for work. In full disclosure, this is going to be 3 looks for working from home. I do work from home every day. I am not in the office at all right now. So for this first look, we are going to use the Flourish palette by Ensley Reign. This is my first time trying the brand. I've been very interested in all of their releases, but I was very excited to see them release smaller palettes. So I will be giving this one a try today. I am priming my eyes with the P. Louise white eye base. Still loving it, absolutely fantastic. I do have a bit of a cold if I'm sniffling. I am starting off with the shade Caligna, which is the deepest shade in the palette, and I'm going to start putting that on the outer corner of my eye. And I'm just going to pack that on first and then slowly start to blend it out. And I'm making sure to go along the bottom lashes as well so that it doesn't look funny when my eyes are relaxed and open. I have to say I'm quite impressed with the mattes, even with my watery eyes from my fall allergies. The mattes are not having any problems sticking and they are blending out quite nicely. Next, I'm taking the shade Thistle, which is that very beautiful purple, and I am going to use that to blend out Caligna. I blended that through about the outer half of my crease, and now I'm going to do the same on the other side. And now I'm going to take just a little bit more of that white eye base and pop it into the inner corner of my eye because I do want to go in with one of the lighter mattes and I want it to pop as much as I can get it to. So I'm going to clean off the small fluffy brush that I used for Thistle, and I'm going into Begonias, which is the light yellow, and I'm going to start to pack that in the inner part of my eye and in the inner corner. Now going in with my NYX glitter primer, we are going to go into a couple of the shimmers. And I haven't swatched this palette previous to using it, so I'm just kind of going by the look of the shimmers. So we are going to start off with Fairy Flutter and put that on the outermost part of the lid. And it's very beautiful. I will say the shimmers are a little bit on the flaky side, and I do have creasy lids. They creased on me a little bit throughout the day, but I was able to pat it back out with my finger, so it wasn't an issue. And I only had to pat it back out once in the 13 to 14 hours that I had this look on. So after Fairy Flutter, I went in with Sunbeam, and that is the shimmer that I had in the center of the lid. It is absolutely stunning. It's probably the flakiest one I've used, but it is worth it. It is so beautiful. And for the absolute inner part of my lid, I used Buttercup Bliss, which is the yellow shimmer in the palette. I was a little surprised when I put it on because I hadn't swatched it, and it does have a pink flip to it. It's very, very pretty though, and I very much like this color. I think it turned out quite beautiful. Going back into Thistle, I'm going to run that along my lower lash line just to blend that in with the little bit of Caligna that is already there. And this is the finished look. I absolutely love the way it turned out, and I am very, very impressed by Ensley Reign and can't wait to see what their next releases are. And now going into day 2, I'm going to start off by using some tape so I can get a sharp line for my eyeshadow on the top. I find it a little tricky since I have hooded eyes. My main trick with this is I try to line it up so that it goes with my lower lash line on that same angle, and it usually works okay. I have never done this before with my base already on, so I was a little nervous putting tape over my foundation. And just fixing the angle of one of them and priming my eyes once again with P. Louise white eye base to get ready for the look. And to start, I'm going to take a black eyeliner. This one is by Too Faced, and I'm just going to use that to smudge and get a bit of a shape of a wing, more of a shadow of a wing that will be under the eyeshadow. So I'm just putting that on and using a small shader brush to smudge that around and make a bit of a wing on the outer part of my eye. And for today, I'm going to be using the Oden's Eye and Angelica Nyqvist Trick or Treat palette. And the first shade I am going into is Cauldron, which is that deep green. And I'm going to start packing that and blending it on the outer corner of my eye. And just blending it. I don't want it to be too harsh, but just trying to get a nice blend so that it's still visible when my eyes are open. And now going into the shade Poison, which is that very bright matte green. I was very excited to jump into the shade, and I'm using it to blend out Cauldron. I'm using it with a small fluffy brush, and they're blending out beautifully, which which isn't surprising. I've never had any issues with any mattes when it comes to blending from Oden's Eye. And taking off the tape, and the angles aren't too bad, and there wasn't much mess under the tape either. Now I'm just putting on my concealer. I did leave that step for after the tape so it wouldn't mess up the concealer, and it wasn't bad. It didn't leave any big marks on my foundation. There was a little one, but it was pretty easy to tap out with the Beauty Blender. Now I'm going into the shade Candy Apple, and I'm just on a small shader brush. I'm going to start running that on the outer half or so of my lower lash line. And going into the shade Jack-o'-lantern, that is going to go into the inner part of my lower lash line, and I'm going to run that into Candy Apple a bit just so it blends nicely. And taking the shade Goblin, which is the deepest shade in the palette, and I'm going to run that along my lower lash line, and I'm going to kind of flip that out into a second baby wing on my lower lash line. I saw somebody do this in a video before on TikTok. I can't remember who it was. If I can think of who it was, I will link them. But I did it with a shadow and not with a liquid liner this time, just to try it, and I really, really liked it. And I can see myself doing this again in the future because I really like the way that little flick of a wing on the bottom lash line looks. And running a bit of that shade on the upper lashes as well. Prepping my eyes with some NYX glitter primer just to get prepared to put on some shimmers, and making sure that's all tapped out so that there's less chance of these shimmers creasing on me. To start, I'm going to use Crypt Keeper, which is the dark green shimmer in the palette, and that's just going to go on the outer half to outer third of my lid. I want to keep that inner part open for a different one. And now going in with Witch's Brew, which is that bright green shimmer, and putting that over the rest of my lid. That green is absolutely breathtaking. It is so beautiful. I can't believe it took me this long to play with this shade in the palette. It is probably one of the best greens I have. And now taking the shade Mummy's Curse, and I am going to put that in my inner corner and just kind of buff and blend that up along the edges of the green shimmers just to give it a little blend and a sparkly look up a little higher. I like taking my shimmers up fairly high. And I'm going to take the shade Full Moon and give that a little spray, and I'm going to put that on my lower lash line in the center. And I did pack a little bit of Wicked in the inner corner just to make it a little more lighter and matte. Going in with the Mars Melter highlighter from Kaleidos just to give a nice little peachy orange highlight, and cleaning my brush off and blending that out so there's no overly harsh lines. And I have to say, I really like the finished look. I do detest this top, and I do change it after. And for our third day of work from home makeup, I am starting once again with white eye base from P. Louise and getting that on and blend it out. And using another new to me brand today, I'm using the Atlantis palette by Kryptein Cosmetics. And I am going to start with the shade Whale, which is the deep blue, and starting as I tend to like to on the lower lash line and starting to map out the shape that I would like it to be. And it's just going to be a lot of packing and blending and getting the shape where I want it to be before moving on to the other eye. Now going in with the shade Aquaman, which is the light pastel-y blue in the palette. I am taking that on a small fluffy brush and using that to blend the Whale shade on the top of my lid and bringing that through the inner part of my crease as well. And I have to say the mattes seemed a little dusty when I was first picking them up in the palette, but they have no issues applying or blending out, and their longevity is quite nice. I had no issues with it. There's just some kick up in the pan, which is never an issue for me. I don't mind that. It's not a deal breaker by any means. Now adding a little bit more Whale to the lower lash line just to help keep it there since my eyes are still quite watery, and giving that a little blend. Then I'm going in with the shade Coral, which is a light purple, and I'm going to start by packing that on the inner part of my lower lash line and running it through Whale as well and blending that out. I really like the way that blend turned out. I think it's quite nice, the purple and the blue together. Now using NYX Glitter Primer to prep my eyes for the shimmers. Their shimmers were a little flaky and creased on me a bit through the day, but I could tap them out with my finger and had no issues at all doing that. I am starting with the shade Siren on the outer part of my eye. That is a multi-chrome. It's very flaky. It is so beautiful. This is the magic in the palette, I would say, is their shimmers. They are so breathtaking. Then going in with the shade Deluge, which is a bright, almost tealy turquoise blue, and it blended in with Siren quite well. I was kind of worried how it would blend because of some of Siren's flips, but I think it worked out quite well. And I'm going to take the shade Jellyfish and I'm going to give that a spray so it actually sticks, and I'm going to put that in the inner corners. And that is, I want to say that might also be a duochrome as well. It looks like it has a blue, purple, and white shift looking at it. For my waterline, I used OK Boomer by Melt Cosmetics and a highlighter from Oden's Eye. I don't believe this highlighter is still available. I will say I like their highlighters in this packaging. At least the ones I've tried. They're a baked formula and they go on so smooth and beautifully, and they just blend out and look fabulous on the skin. And this is the finished look. I'm really pleased with the way this turned out, and I would like to try some of this brand's other palettes, possibly. I do have my eye on the green one. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed watching me do my eyeshadow for 3 days of working from home. Have a great day.